true anytime, it's not the computer's fault, it's Bill's fault. But before we start, I thought I'd wear my hat
I think it is recording now.
The glare bouncing off the top of my head. I thought I'd give courtesy to the members. Okay.
You're all set.
I would like to convene the October 28th meeting of the Niskayuna Complete Streets Committee, and just quickly start with our roll call. I believe I saw Paulina here. Paulina's here. Hi, Paulina. How are you today? Good. Carla Dougal is here. Hi, Carla. How are you today? I'm here. Mr. Levy is here. Jim, how are you today? Andrew is here. Andrew, thanks for joining us. How are you today? Good. Catherine is here. Catherine, and how are you today? Good. Oh. Ben O'Shea. Ben, are you on the way? Or are you be joining us soon?
He emailed me, but he's going to be a little late, but he'll be here.
Okay. And Tess Healy joined us yet? Not. Okay, Tess will be on the way. And did you get a message from Dart, Laura? Is he? I
did not get a message from Dart, but he was out of the country, so
okay.
I wouldn't count on him.
Okay, well, we'll give him a dispensation for today. Okay. Next item of business is the minutes for our September 30 meeting. They were attached. Anyone have an additional comment or correction they would like to make to our September 30 minutes? Okay. Hearing none, I would like to move that we accept the September 30, 2022, the minutes for our September 30, 22 meeting. And looking for a second. Carla Douglas, second. All in favor of the minutes, just hold your hand up quickly. We've got a unanimous on that, Laura. So minutes are approved, and we'll move to old business. We had discussion of 1502 Balltown Road, the Stewarts, the crosswalks there at our last meeting, and so if there's a little bit more discussion, why don't we move to that? So.
Okay, it's not really discussion. I just like to keep you up to date. I really feel like the input that you guys have had on planning board projects has been extremely helpful lately. And I want to let you know that on 1502 Balltown Road, the planning board made a condition of the Stewarts addition for them to restripe the crosswalks. So that's that was taken to heart and made a condition of site plan approval. And then I noticed that at 1748 Union Street, we talked about doing a site walk. That project did not get resubmitted to the planning board yet, but I didn't want to lose track of it. And if anybody had a chance to do a site walk, I can still keep a tally of recommendations, but it's not super time sensitive. So if you didn't get a chance, we could also look at it a little bit more at the next meeting.
Okay. Quickly, Elise joined us. Elise Corbin, thank you for joining us today. And the picnic tables at that Stewart's, I mean, there are a couple that are kind of next to Knott Street East when you first come in. And then I noticed there's also a couple, 2 or 3 over on the grass that are off the parking area on the side next to the catch basin for ShopRite Plaza. And it looks like there are some employees that may eat lunch out there if the weather's nice, or high school kids that may get an ice cream or a sandwich or something, or heaven forbid, if they were going to have a gret or something like that, they would recline in those. And I mean, they're on the grass, so they're not in the parking area. And I do think there's that. And I do see people sitting at the picnic tables on the other side by Knott Street East, so I think they're in good shape on those.
Yeah, I can't remember if it came from this board or the Conservation Advisory Council, but one of the boards said that they would like to see more seating. That may have been you guys. And that was actually also incorporated into the plan. So they're proposing to put 4, I think probably more modern picnic tables, not the ones that are out there are in a little bit poor shape. And they're talking about, they put them on their plans. I can pull them up if you guys really want to see, but essentially where there are 2 picnic tables now, there'll be 4, and they're probably going to be like the metal, more nice picnic table type. So the comment for crosswalks was incorporated into a condition of site plan approval, and the comment for seating actually just got incorporated right in the site plan by stewards themselves. They just took it to heart and put it in there.
Okay. And also, I mean, I did think it was important that the air pump, if they move it over to the other side, that's not in a parking spot, because I know people, when they pull in to get air in their tires, if you're using the air pump, they're willing to, as long as you're out there putting the air in, they're willing to be patient. But, you know, they almost don't want to see somebody not in their car if you're waiting to get air in your tires, because it's good the steward does it. They don't charge, but I would just have a separate space that's the air pump station. So I hope the planning board included that in there.
Well, they did have to move it because the air pump station is currently not in a parking space, but would interfere with the changes to the site plan. They moved it over to a parking space that I don't think people really realize is a parking
Yeah, well, they'll have to just label it, that's all.
space. Yeah.
So good. Okay, we have a lot to do. So 1748 Union now. Okay, so that was a walkout if we can. Shall we move to pedestrian connections at the school campus, or?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let's do that. I would say I have gone to speak. Kim Tully sent me an email on the 26th of October, 2 days ago, and I forwarded it to Laura, and it's a link that Paulina and Elise and I and Jim Levy have all made trips to the school board to speak at Privilege of the Floor, to encourage the school to do more on pedestrian and bike safety. And we were hopeful that with the $80 million they got in bonding money, that they could accommodate some of these requests. And our hope was, if we got in early with some asphalt connections and some other things, that they could do that work as part of the $80 million bonding. And I guess their position is, even though you spoke at Privilege of the Floor, that our September 18 to 20 to the architects, either they didn't get it or whatever, that you haven't gotten to us in time. But this is correspondence back, and it at least they are responding to us. Some comments. They've taken each school campus and shown some of the changes that we've recommended on it. None of them are part of the plans for the current bonding. And since some of the walk path and parking construction has not been done yet, I'm hopeful that maybe if we're still advocates over the winter, that, you know, they might still be able to say, look, if we can fit this in, we'll try to do it. But it's at least encouraging that they looked at the plan for each school. They put some stuff in. They've invited us to have a meeting. So, I mean, I'd like for us to take a look at this. I'll email everybody the package that we're going to see here. And then Kim Tully's the president of the school board, says, you know, we're open to having a meeting. So we need to take them up on that and have a meeting and present our view. So basically, this first couple pages are cost estimates, and we'd have to blow them up to read, but they're really it's about $1 million. And they've kind of supplanted a lot of what we recommended with concrete sidewalks instead of asphalt pathways. But if we go to the first one, we can kind of see it here. So here's Birchwood. And what they suggested here is a concrete sidewalk. It looks like going across Birchwood Lane, and then a crosswalk going into the parking lot. If you drove into Birchwood, like right there, they'd put a crosswalk there, and then a better crosswalk going, really, I guess, if that's the buses pull in there, but if cars pulled into the other side, that you'd have a crosswalk to get over to the school. And one of the things that I did like about Birchwood is that they have an asphalt path that goes from Birchwood Lane next to the road down to the school, which is a good thing. So anybody coming in off of Birchwood Lane would be able to ride their bike or walk in a pathway separate from where the buses and cars are coming in. And they don't show that. Well, they show a concrete sidewalk. So that's that's still something. And the other thing that you'll notice, they do show a pathway going over to Douglas Court, and then we'd have to, probably the town would do a wood bridge there, and there'd be a way so that you could have the walking school bus that people would come in from Laurie and neighborhoods that would get over to Elisha Kill Road. But it's interesting, they put the sidewalk right across the middle of the softball field, the playing field, and they show it as a concrete. I don't know if it's asphalt or concrete, but it really needs to go behind the field at the very least, to come out, from the school and then go behind the field and then down and go over to the connection to get over to Douglas Court, because you wouldn't want, I think, a concrete sidewalk in the center of your kickball court. So, I'm grateful they showed it at least, so that's a good thing. But I would say, look, you could do this a lot cheaper. Coming in from Douglas Court, I doubt the town's going to pave that. They probably would do asphalt, and I think that'd be perfectly fine. So if the school just came from the school building over to the connection to Douglas with asphalt, that would be fine too. And on our list of projects to the town board, we have listed our priorities, a walk path on either one or both sides of Birchwood Lane. And I've spoken to some homeowners over there, and they really are all very supportive. I haven't run into, I went into one no, I guess, one no. But, there are a lot of neighborhoods on the other side of Birchwood Lane, and, the walking school bus, either to come off of Douglas on the other side or the neighborhood, the streets off of Douglas. That's got to be one of our projects, I think, that we can continue to encourage the town board. So if the school does their piece, God bless. And if the town does their piece, we would get some pedestrian access to the school. So that's Birchwood. Let's move on to the next one if we can, Laura. Here's Craig. And anyone else can certainly feel free to chip in. They have a sidewalk here, and in their directions, they do make mention to the plan that Jim Levy worked on and sent to the Capital District Transportation Committee that would show a crosswalk going across Balltown Road, a 20-mile-an-hour school safety zone in front of Craig School, and the CDTC plan, and Jim could certainly chime in here, would move the driveway a little to the north, and then we'd have a crosswalk, a push button crosswalk there, and then either a path that would go west on some of the property of the Jewish Community Center, or, at least in the short run, we could try to get the state to just extend the side path that used to be there that went from the entrance to Craig Elementary down to the Jewish Community Center. So that would still be in place. And they do show over to the right here, this walkway that our hope was don't wreck the playground that's part of Craig Elementary, to put a parking lot to faculty. They have the same needs to do a little walking as we do, that let's just put a walkway, and it could be asphalt or it could be concrete, and staff could park in the parking lot for the soccer park, which would be a little town school district sharing. And so that's that. Anything you want to add to the discussion on Craig, Jim?
Oop, I'll mute myself. No, I think you got it, Bill. I do think the ultimate idea is that it would become a four-way intersection on Balltown, so that people could make safe left turns into the J. Northbound are a really big deal. I took video and we showed it a couple of years ago, people going in the ditch. Alongside the ditch, we know a couple of cars have actually landed in the ditch in the past. And we know school buses take a very long route just to get kids from Craig over to the J for aftercare, instead of being able to go straight across. So yeah, that was part of kind of what we put together with CDTC and CDRPC. But the eventual goal will be that would be a full interchange, full intersection.
Let me ask you, if we did get a meeting with the state regional director, Mark Pascaldo, would we want to ask for a left turn lane in Balltown Road for both Craig Elementary and the Jewish Community Center? I mean, would that be widening the road a little bit and putting a middle lane in there, a middle left turn lane that wouldn't block traffic going either north or south so people could get in? I mean, is that
That was what we sketched out. Yeah.
okay?
That was, I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
No, that wouldn't be an expensive underground or overground push button crosswalk, right? That would just be a modification to the road. And
Well, you'd have to put a signal in. That's pretty expensive. Widening might be expensive depending on right of ways and things. And we know there's a ditch there. So I wouldn't say it would be cheap. It's not just repaint. It's not just repainting the road.
oh, in other words, you'd have to have a signal if you put a middle lane there for left turns, both at Craig and the Jewish Community Center.
You'd have to do an engineering study, but the proposal was that we would make it a full stop, four-way intersection with the JCC, Craig, and then on Balltown.
Okay.
A signalized intersection, I should say. Sorry.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's still the plan, and some interim things here. At least, I mean, this is a nice sidewalk, but if it gets you to Balltown Road and you don't want anybody to walk across Balltown Road, that's a dubious intervention, I guess. But
yeah, and just real quick, so I did talk to someone who went to school there many, many years ago, and there's a rumor that there used to be a crosswalk across Balltown Road there probably 30, 40 years ago.
No, it's not even that old. I can find it on
Okay.
Air, Jim. There's
Okay.
definitely a crosswalk there.
So there is a history there, which could help a little bit. I don't know if it'd help a lot, but there used to be one there.
okay.
Still goes to nothing on the other side, but
Well, when we set up our meeting with the state regional DOT director, we'll be sure to mention this project. It's on the list, so we'll be ready to do that. Okay, let's move on to the next one, Laura. Here we have Glencliff Elementary, and the Safe Routes to Schools plan that the town of Glenville has worked on with Saratoga County. They are actually putting a walk path. I don't know if it's a concrete sidewalk or an asphalt walk path. I've driven up a couple of times, but they are bringing a path from Riverview Road, which is what the name changes to Riverview from Applause Avenue once you move from the town of Applause into Saratoga County. And, that path is going to come up to the traffic circle here in front of Glencliff Elementary. In our plan, we wanted a little bit more on kind of the right-hand side of the parking area there. So if parents stop there to unload kids, they would get onto a sidewalk. And there may be a bit of one there now. But, the Turner Construction, they show a crosswalk right before that parking lot right there. And then they show another one right there going into the school. So really, we could probably live even with this if the school district were willing to do those, and the town of Glenville and Schenectady County brings the pathway in from Riverview Road, which they've got the money and they're going to do it. So I think this one is a win, courtesy of Schenectady County and the town of Glenville moving along. And not only is it a win for them, but it's a win for us because it is a good precedent for Birchwood Lane, for Rosendale, for Iroquois, all the schools that, we can make some improvements that will make Niskuna campuses more walkable. And it's a clear message that you've got a town that's taken steps to do it and two counties, both Saratoga and Schenectady County. And so I think this is a good thing. And I also think the work that the county's doing on Applause Avenue, which I've mentioned before, is that if you get all the way up to the town line to Applause Avenue, then it's just a matter of Riverview Road out to Balltown Road with a side path. Then students that live in Applause that want to bike to Niskuna can bike along that bike path on River, cross the intersection at Riverview and Balltown Road, go across the bridge. When they get over to the traffic circle, they wouldn't even have to go around the traffic circle. They'd be able to take E Street or whatever up to the bike path that's up at E Street, and they'd pedal along that until they get around to the new push button crosswalk at St. Joseph's Drive. they would be able to come down Orchard Park Drive and take the new connection into the high school, so people could actually bike safely from Applause Avenue to get to Niskayuna High School on their bikes. So that would be a really good thing. Okay. Any further thoughts on Glencliff before we move?
Both Tess and Ben have joined the meeting.
Yes. Ben O'Shea, pleased to see you. And Tess Healy, thank you for joining us as well. So we've got, other than Dart, who I may be out of the country, we've got a full group. Okay, here we are at the high school. So to Ben and Tess, Kim Tully, day before yesterday, sent me these plans that are a response to the input that we gave to the school district in September of 2020. As I said, we had hoped that they would look at our plans, most of which were really asphalt pathways, that we were hopeful they could just fit into the plan, and maybe when they were doing parking, other asphalt pathways, they would put in the connections that we've suggested as just part of the plan, and so that work would get done. But they haven't done it so far. But here at the high school, and so you can see on Knott Street East, they do have a concrete sidewalk, and I have noticed they've put a crosswalk there, that the town crews were doing that crosswalk at Knott Street East in the entrance to the driveway. They saw a sidewalk coming in here that would get to kind of the parking loop there for pedestrians coming in. And I don't think students would walk all the way around the parking lot, but they cut across there and, get access to the school building. They also make reference in the plan to there is a kind of a little wooded path from the loop in front of Town Hall that gets over to the high school. And so, we might want to either put some sand on that or something that would make that walkable. So students coming over on Knott Street East, if they cut through the Town Hall parking lot, which they'll probably go to the wooded area to cut across rather than walking all the way down to Knott Street East. And then they also show in their plan two good things, I think, is that we had shown on our handwritten plans down here by the baseball field here, that's the walk path that comes in from Orchard Park Drive. So they at least show that on their plan. And it's kind of a gravel path now. If the town were to pave that from Orchard Park up to the school property line, then the school has got, in their plans that don't show here, they do have some asphalt pathways that go around the playing fields down here, that if they put those asphalt pathways in, then a student could walk in from Orchard or bike in from Orchard Park. And, they wouldn't have to go through mud. They would grab an asphalt pathway on the school district grounds and come around to the school building. So you'd be able to either walk or bike, ride your bike and tie up to a bike parking spot next to the school. And the same for coming in on Gordon Drive up at the top up here. There's they've got the fence closed, but the town would have to do a little bit on the grass from Baker Avenue East to pave a spot that would get to the school property. But then once you got to school property, it would be, an asphalt path that would kind of come around to really the new asphalt path that's in front of the bleachers, in front of the football field. In other words, you'd get to it by the long jump, down here for track and field. So you'd really just have to come from Garden up, 100 feet or whatever, and tie into the bike path. And then you'd be able to bike or walk and tie up on a bike rack by the school. And then interestingly, in their plans, they're saying if we go a little further north, that the school might want to open the gates across from Lexington Parkway to make it easier. Now, probably the school district wouldn't want to do that because people come in on the fields here. So, but you do get folks that would, I guess, cross Lex here, and then they would either bike or walk down and come in on the entrance to the school. But anyway, I'm encouraged by this because they at least acknowledge the pathways that students are using now to get access to the high school, and they're open to an asphalt pathway to put those in. So I think that's kind of a win on the high school here. Elise, any thoughts on the high school or anything else as we go along, or does that?
I think you're right that the more you can pave those paths over, the better, because that backfield where a lot of students walk through, with the excavating the track and the moving of a lot of sports teams over there, it's kind of more dangerous for kids to walk that way. I know I have a few friends who walk that way, and they say there are baseballs flying in the spring, there are footballs flying in the fall now, and in the winter it's covered in snow and they can't really walk there. So I think it would be a great improvement to have something paved there.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, Bill, I had just a quick question. Laura, the path between the town hall circle and the school, is that mostly on town property or is that school property? Because I went through there on my bike probably 2 months ago, and there is already a path there. It's just really overgrown. I'm just wondering if, at least for the purposes of maintenance, if we'd be able to go in there in the spring, even if it was this committee with a bunch of weed whackers and clippers, and just keep it from continuing to grow in. Because it was pretty much almost gone when I went in there a month ago. It's pretty well full of weeds and other things.
It's mostly on school property, and they
Okay.
actually closed it because the trees in that section of forest were like 90% ash trees.
Okay.
And they were one of the first places in the town of Niskuna that got hit by the emerald ash borer. And unfortunately, when the emerald ash borer attacks the trees, they become quite brittle. And so like if you ask loggers and stuff, they don't even like doing salvage logging in forests that have been kind of devastated by the emerald ash borer because the trees are so brittle. So I'm all for trying to put that path back to better, but I think it's not just a matter of brushing it out. It's so overgrown right now because the school really closed it off. You'd probably have to take down the dead trees on either side in order for it to be like truly safe.
Okay. I hadn't heard that before. That's definitely obviously a consideration for sure. Okay. Thanks.
But I can't take down trees. I don't have that capability. But if the school gets somebody on board to do that, I can take down all of the brush and would be happy to help.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking. I can easily go out there and brush whack all of it. But if there are other safety issues, then that's a different discussion.
It's the ash trees. And
Oh, yeah.
you won't notice it as much this now because a lot of trees have lost their leaves. But look at it in the summer. Like the entire forest is basically dead over there.
Yeah.
And what you see when you walk through is that the invasive buckthorn have been growing in on that trail, which is, I would love to clear it out, but somebody's got to go in there and take some of the ash trees down so that you can safely go back and forth.
Okay.
Is the Baker Ave East entrance open at the high school?
They have it blocked off because they're doing the construction. So
Oh, okay.
there's a fence there, and they locked the fence, and so they basically cut it off. But I think once they kind of finish the construction a bit, then the appeal would be to the school to open the gate or open a hole in the fence there and put that back. And hopefully they'll also do the asphalt path. It may not be this. It's not going to be this fall, but if we have the meeting with the school and we suggest some things, hopefully that will be one of the things that they'll do. So.
Well, maybe Jim's going to say this, but the Baker Ave East connection is going to be a lot harder because they're building up the field. And so there's going to be a slope. We tried to get them to incorporate the connection when we met with them. And the slope is going to change a lot to Baker Ave East.
Yeah, and I also don't remember seeing that open, but maybe I just didn't look in the right place. But I haven't been over there for a while. But I didn't think there was an opening, like a legal opening, at least over there. But maybe I just missed it when I was.
There was.
There is
for a
a
There was an opening. It may have been illegal, but the cows used it regularly, and there was a path that went through there. So
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Yeah, I do remember the discussion of the slope. That will definitely make it more interesting. But we'll have to see where it ends up, I guess.
Mhm.
Okay, let's drop down to the next one. And I do encourage people, I'll send you the link to look at these, that we'd like to get our input together from people on the committee, and then, a subset of folks will meet with the school and we'll make our pitch to them to try to do what they're talking about here or listen to a couple other ideas we may have. Okay, so this one is Hillside. Hillside Elementary, as we'll see, is part of the parking below. Well, let's look at it while we're here. In the back here, they have a basketball field, and they've had an asphalt path that goes from the back of the school up to Van Antwerp, and there's an easement that goes to from the corner here out to Van Antwerp, and it kind of goes along the driveway of two homeowners there. And I think one of the homeowners has maybe not been too fond of students walking back and forth. And I think that's been aggravated because there were, for a short period of time, people that would either pull their cars in there and wait to pick up their kids after school, or might have even parked a car there. And so the homeowners are like, look, if students walk by, that's one thing, especially the school district has got a legal easement for that to happen. But it's not like people can fill up my driveway with their cars waiting to pick up their children from the school. But again, I think in terms of being able the students to walk from Hillside to Iroquois and back, or I'm sorry, to Van Antwerp and back, and just, being able to use Grand Boulevard. And, we are hopefully going to get some sidewalks on both sides of Grand Boulevard that, I think this is an important connection to keep open. And there is a school crossing guard that works there so it's a good connecting pathway. And if people can go that way, it minimizes having to walk all the way down Van Antwerp and come in on Plum and kind of have to make a loop to get around to the school. They can get in this way right here. And if the janitor, when they're cleaning snow off, if they clean that back asphalt pathway there, with a snow removal machine, then it would be a good path. So I'm certainly a supporter of having them repair that asphalt pathway. It's there now. It's maybe only 2 feet wide. It's crumbling, but it is there. And then when we look down, you can see there's a concrete sidewalk coming into the end of the parking area at the kind of corner of Plum there. And the town has found the money in the 2023 budget, I believe, to do a concrete sidewalk that's going to come off of Van Antwerp and go along the one house right on Plum, at the corner of Plum and Van Antwerp. And then that gets us to the end of that particular homeowner. And then hopefully the school district will do from the homeowner's property line over to the sidewalk at the bottom of the school district. And Laura also, I didn't see it on the plan, but has been an advocate of a crosswalk on Nicholas, so that kids coming along Nicholas, would be able to safely be able to cross over to the walk-in sidewalk with the buses and cars exiting the parking lot at Hillside. There'd be a crosswalk there. And then at the other end, Cornelius Avenue, they'd issue a concrete sidewalk there that would get you from kind of the road over and a crosswalk getting into the school. And, there is some appeal to having a new walk path or sidewalk on the east side of Cornelius, because you don't have the intersections with other roads, but there are fire plugs and traffic poles and other obstacles on the east side. I've walked it, and I'm hopeful that the town would consider. See you, Jim. Thanks for joining us. On the west side, because they're you don't have the trees, the poles, other things. You could do have a green space and then a side path there, so pedestrians and bikers would be able to ride in to get access to the school. So, but again, this is a first step, and so I'm encouraged by this. And the school has sort of said to us, hey, are other players like the county and the town going to do some of their piece in doing pedestrian and bike connections to the schools? And so if the town is spending money to bring that road in on Plum Street, we're spending some money to do that. And if the county's gotten grant money to do sidewalks on Grand Boulevard on either side, then, they're putting some good faith money in. And, we're also getting the crosswalks on St. Joseph's and River Road and, some other crosswalk connections. And so I do feel like other entities like the town and the county are doing some things. And so the school needs to step up and do some of its part as well. Anyway, anybody else have a thought on Hillside Avenue before we leave it? Okay. Here we have Rosendale and Iroquois Middle School, in our plan that we submitted to the school, we had an asphalt pathway coming in off of Rosendale Road that would have been, looking on this plan, over to the right of the driveway in. So it would have segregated bikers and pedestrians coming in off of Rosendale Road on an asphalt pathway that would be separate from the road where buses and cars come in. It would be, and they've got plenty of room to do it, a green space separate from the road, and then, a path that if we had a side path on Rosendale Road, then walkers and pedestrians would get off of that. They'd be on the side path coming in. And then if you came in on the right, our side path proposal would actually kind of connect to some pathways that they're planning on doing that would connect Rosendale Elementary and Iroquois Middle School, so that if you were biking and you were coming, guess probably northbound or whatever on Rosendale Road, you'd come in on the path and then you just make a right on your bike and head over to Iroquois Middle School and tie up to a bike rack there and go into the school. And then our bike path would continue there, and it would go, if we go down a little bit, by the trees, and you've got the playground area, and it would just be over to the right where those trees are, and it wouldn't go over this big soccer field here. It would just be over to the right, and then it would connect. And I think the town path is kind of in the middle, where that kind of dotted line is there that goes over to River Road Park. And so we would just, if you bought this side path in, continue next to the playground area along the trees, and then you would connect. The town would improve the asphalt path coming over from River Road Park, and that would be your connection. And that would be, we've talked about a connection to come through River Road Park. So even people in Old Niskayuna would take the side path on Knott Street East, would get on Fox Hollow, Linwood, get over to New Hempstead Road, probably Sandra Lane, then Hempstead, go through River Road Park on the improved asphalt pathways there, and then they'd be able to get to Iroquois Middle School, which really you could go from Old Niskayuna to Iroquois Middle School. You'd have to cross Van Antwerp, and but other than that, you'd be on fairly quiet side streets to bike all the way safely to Iroquois Middle School, which would be a great thing. And since they're putting all 7th and 8th graders at Iroquois, it would be a good way to do it. And I think probably by 7th and 8th grade, people that are comfortable riding bikes are big enough to do it, big enough to negotiate the roads, and it would be a really, really good thing. And then, the county's got money. If there's federal money, this is also a setup to run the side path that we think is important on Rosendale Road that would go from hopefully from Upper Union, certainly from Rose Hill down to the Lashkill Preserve with a side path. So we'd open up all the people between Rosendale and Troy Road and others that could use a side path on Rosendale Road to get around on bikes. But the school district has proposed, a concrete sidewalk, which, it's nice for pedestrians, but I'm not sure you want to encourage bikers to be on a sidewalk, especially so close to the road. It'd be much cheaper just to put an asphalt side path over next to the road coming in, and then would accommodate both bikers and pedestrians, and it would be a lot cheaper. So that's probably something we would ask them to think about. Anyone else on Rosendale and Iroquois? Okay, well, these are just kind of, I'm grateful that the school district has responded. They've asked for a meeting, so we should just get our comments together, and you can send them in to me or whatever, and we'll take Ms. Tully up on a meeting. Maybe Mr. Robert Grand, who's the project manager for Turner, we can again make the pitch for him and to the school board to say, look, if you don't have the money, let's use some old ground up asphalt that gets ground up from the parking lots that are already there. Put down some stone and put some asphalt pathways in. It'll be much cheaper and it'll serve the purpose. So that would be the pitch.
Yeah, so last time we had a meeting with the school, I think it was Jim and was it you, Paulina? I can't remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. So, maybe, Paulina, have you had a chance to dive into the letter, or you haven't seen it yet?
I haven't.
Okay, so we'll send it to the whole group, and maybe Jim left in particular. I know he said he can only stay very short. Could look at it, and then we can look at times for our meeting with the school. If you
Sure.
still want to do that, okay.
Okay, let's move on to Winnie Road.
Well, Bill, you can talk to the committee about your meeting if you want. I would like to draw up an aerial that you can use or that I can use to reach out to the homeowner, but I wasn't able to do that this morning.
Can
but
you
I
show
can.
us the end of Winnie Road by any chance?
Oh,
Or
sure.
just
Yeah, I
about
can definitely do that.
Um,
I was just looking. I've got well, it's all right. You guys can see my.
So, Carla, would you like to kick us off on this one? You're muted, Carla.
Yeah, so we met with Audrey Cox back in September, and we walked with her down Winnie Road. It's a dead-end street on Route 7, and at the end of the road, there's like a dirt path that is on somebody's property that lives on Mohawk Road, but the dirt path leads down to Adams Drive. Which is like part of a bigger neighborhood network that leads down to the Flower Hill connection to the bike path. So anyway, but the dirt path, it's kind of overgrown with vegetation, and they would like to see something like with like a gravel path. And I think Bill mentioned that asphalt would probably be easier to maintain. And it looks like a pretty simple thing to do. It's like, as long as the property owner is open to it, and he seems open to people using it right now. A lot of people, or a few people on Winnie Road, use it to get to the other neighborhood. And people come from, I think, across 7 even to go down and cross over to that network of streets. I think, well, Bill and I were also talking about how it could connect with the Avon Crest North neighborhood. If the property owner or one of the property owners was open to having a sort of a right of way going through their, or a trail going through their yard, they could put a multi-use path on a segment of Mohawk Road, which would connect to like the Avon Crest North neighborhood. And that would also connect, the Merlin and the Flower Hill neighborhood, and Winnie Road to like an access point to Leisha Kill Preserve, like that access point in the Avon Crest neighborhood. And it's sort of just a more quality experience for people to go through, like sort of a back channel and like through like a little pathway and through the neighborhoods to those things than on Route 7, I think. But anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent. So I guess the issue that Bill had talked about is that they have to see if the property owner is willing to have an asphalt path placed and a trail placed with public access placed on his property. And the maintenance issue, I think Bill had addressed with like there's a water pump station right on Adams Drive, and he said that it probably wouldn't be difficult for people to like bring their equipment up just to maintain that trail. So I think that's about it, I guess.
Yeah, the key thing would be asking the property owner for an easement on the trail there. And I think if the town if he were willing to grant an easement, then I think probably the town would say, you know, our town insurance would cover pedestrians that use that easement, so it wouldn't be on his insurance if somebody fell off their bike and or if it were snowy or whatever. He wouldn't be his responsibility to maintain it or even to insure it. He would just grant us an easement. The town would put an asphalt pathway there. And Laura had mentioned it might be a fairly steep incline that we'd have to look at, but I mean, this is I think it's a sewer pump station that's there as you come in off of Adams Drive, which the town has to get access to maintain. And so, but really a pathway, you know, the town has pickups that have got blades on them. So, you know, you could just come right up Adams and just go right up there, the snow, and either push it into the woods or whatever. So it'd be fairly, you know, easy to maintain. And, you know, while Carl and I were talking to Audrey Cox, when you look at 1086 here, you'd see, even if you're over by the fence line, you come back between 1086 and 1082. If they're willing to give us a little bit of an easement there, then you get over to this other lot that's behind 1092, it looks like. It's just kind of a wooded area that, you know, there's now a yellow garage on 1086 that's about here, or yellow storage shed. But if you could come in just a little ways on 1086 and then jump over to this wooded area back here, then you could tie into, you know, the walk path on Adams Drive there. And, you know, as I mentioned, Mohawk Road is a county road that you have County Clare down here. If you went from County Clare, just, you know, a side path a little ways on 1086 here, then you'd get access to Adams Drive. And if you can kind of scroll over a little, Laura, could we show people, you know, how far it is or how close the Flower Hill connection is? Yeah. So Adams to Merlin. So here's Flower Hill here. So you can see the connection goes down there. So you'd be on Adams and then on Valerie for a little bit, then on Brookhaven and Merlin for a few feet, and then Pinecrest for a few feet. Then you'd take the Flower Hill Court down here and you'd get the bike path. So really kind of a lot of the neighborhoods that are on the west side of Mohawk Road, and certainly everybody on Winnie, they'd be able to have safe access to the Mohawk Hudson bike path if we could just do this little connection at the end of Winnie Road, and maybe, you know, find something. I mean, I think Carla on 1128. Now it's a little bit of a hike, but I mean, I don't know if there's another opportunity for somebody that, you know, would give us an easement there somewhere. But anyway, the worst that can happen is that people say no, but, you know, they might say yes. So, but I guess for the time being, really, we just want to ask the town attorney to just establish who owns that property there. And we believe we know who it is. And just ask them, you know, could we get an easement there that would let us get down to Adams Drive? And, you know, the people on Winnie are quite clear. They don't want this to be a road connection because they don't want traffic coming down Winnie and then, you know, getting hooked onto Adams Drive. They wouldn't want a roadway there. And they might even be a little worried that if we get an asphalt path walkway, that it would be, you know, a next step to a roadway. But, you know, at least
What I would think too, like even just keeping it a gravel path or a dirt path, just to make it easy for people to walk, would soothe people's concerns about, and even just the cost of putting an asphalt path in there. I'm not sure what the town's budget is on something like this, but just the equipment to put an asphalt path in there. I'm not sure the neighbors, or, you know, what the neighbors' concerns are going to be to have all this equipment in
well,
there.
Adams is a public road, so you can just come right up from Adams and just, you know,
Yeah,
you grade it a little bit, put some stone in it, and put an asphalt. But you do have a good point. It could be the easement would just be gravel that you could ride your bike over a little bit. It's not a road, and maybe the neighbors would like that better. Maybe even the people that use it would be okay with it. So I guess the main thing is just to try to get an easement for now, so that people are not trespassing when they go there, and the owner wouldn't be worried that somebody falls off their bike and break a leg and I'm going to get sued. So anyway, any further comment on Winnie Road easement? Well, thank you to Carla for coming out. We had a good visit, and okay. Let's take a look at the crosswalks at St. Joseph's and River, and also on Upper Union Street, which are two. The town's gotten some grant money to do these. I think it's really, really good news. We talked about getting a crosswalk at St. Joseph's and St. Joseph's Drive and River, and this one I wasn't actually that aware of myself, but I guess it's been kicking around for a little bit on Upper Union Street. So
Yeah,
Upper
is,
Union.
is Laura
Yeah.
able to give just a little background on, because these are awarded contract drawings, right? So
Well, some of them. We
So-
bid them all,
yeah,
but we weren't able to fund them all.
right. So I
so-
guess the planning for it, was any of the Complete Streets Committee part of the planning for these projects?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably the only one was just not Upper Union Street, because that grant there was from 2014. It was before I was a planner. So the town received 2 grants from Phil Steck to work on pedestrian improvements in the town. One, like I said, was super old, and the other one was more recent. And the other one was split between paving the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, which was done already, like maybe 2 years ago. It was done definitely during like the height of COVID, I remember. And that was when they repaved the bike path like in front of GE and Capitol.
that kind of went from Blatnick all the way up to
It was a long
Rexford-
amount of repaving,
Rexford
all the way
Bridge.
down to East Street, actually. I think they
Yeah.
repaved the whole thing. So it was very nice. And that was a very good job. That was half the grant. And then the other half of the grant was pedestrian crossings and sidewalks that the Complete Streets had identified. And unfortunately, fortunately, they're all engineered. So if we're talking shovel-ready projects, like every single one of these is shovel-ready. Cost-wise, the costs have gone up extensively due to a lot of things that are happening in the country right now. But we were able to fund a crosswalk on Upper Union Street, although without the median. The median is about half the cost of the project, so we're only able to afford the crosswalk. But the crosswalk will still be very high visibility with a push button and blinky lights, and it'll be that red brick. It'll look like brick. It's actually stamped asphalt, but a red brick crossing across Upper Union Street. It's actually moving an existing crosswalk where someone, I believe, was killed a number of years ago. So hopefully with the push buttons and the change in materials on the road will help with safety on the Upper Union Street crosswalk. Well, for sure it will.
So there is a
And then-
crosswalk there now, right? And it actually has poles that say pedestrian things. So the crosswalk will be more pronounced, and it'll have the red brick, and it'll have the push button.
Push
So those
buttons.
will be the improvements.
Yeah, I really wanted the median, but the median is just really expensive. But another thing that is really good, it was sort of a question between sidewalks and median, and the sidewalks there are heavily used and not in great condition. So they're gonna redo the sidewalks on either side of the crosswalk too. So it'll be new sidewalks and an updated, much safer crosswalk for Upper Union Street. And that's those.
So that's St. Cattery on one side and the Brookdale Adult Care Home on the other side of Union Street.
Yes, that's where that crosswalk is. This is the St. Joseph's crosswalk, and it is going to remove the parking lot there, which I already have gotten a bunch of comments from people about. I am working on putting a sign up there to let people know where they can park. There's a parking lot like 3,000 feet from here. All you have to do is just go up the hill a little and take a right on Zenner Road, and the town has paved a connection to the multi-use path there. And it's a much safer place to park your car. It has bathrooms. It's only going to take you another 40 seconds if you're in your car between parking from here and going up to the Zenner soccer field parking lot. The only thing which somebody brought up to me when I was explaining this to them is that in the winter, it's not plowed up there. So in the winter, we'll probably tell people to go park at Blatnick Park. But not as many people are going to be walking the path in the winter. Anyway, the 3 seasons of the year, Zenner soccer fields is the place to park. And then in winter, you're probably going to have to park at Blatnick. But I promise you, we looked at having both cars and pedestrians cross here, and it is not feasible. Because if the cars pull in here, they back out into the crosswalk, they back out into the traffic, and it's not not feasible. People need to cross here. This is one of the only places that bicycles and pedestrians can cross. So, but the cars can drive to other parking lots. So I'm going to put up a map, which I wanted to be able to share with you guys today, but I don't have it done. I did one iteration of it and I don't really like it.
Well,
But-
I just wanted to say, I completely agree with you. I cross with my bike there all the time. And so I'm sorry about those upset motorists, but it'll be so, like, as you know, so much better for the bicyclists and pedestrians.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's literally just 40 more seconds for the cars to park in a different parking lot. The only thing is the winter, but they can park in Blatnick for the winter. So
Will there be more street parking on St. Joseph's here if that parking lot is not there? Will people park their cars on Orchard Park or on St. Joseph and then head out to the bike path?
I mean, they could, but I don't know why you would. Like, I'm telling you, the people that I talk to generally were fine when I explained to them that there's a parking lot in Center Road. They don't realize that it's there. I mean, I think that they would much prefer parking right alongside the bike path where they can get out with their dogs or whatever, and then just get right on a path. But when I've showed them where the Zenner Road soccer field parking is, they were like, "Oh, that's fine," which is why I want to put up a map there ahead of the construction so that when people pull in, there'll be a little map that says, "We're going to close this parking lot. Here's a good place for you to park." Because I think the majority of people will be like, "Oh yeah, I can park there." I mean, not everyone will say that, but most people, I think, as long as you show them where they can park, they will be like, "Oh, okay, that's fine." So I do want to do that for them. But then, so this will also be a push button crosswalk. This is not the stamped concrete. The stamped concrete or the stamped asphalt is particular to Upper Union because that's how the crosswalks look on Upper Union. They're, the whole streetscape. This is just going to be a high vis, super safe. If you look at it, well, I say super safe. It's a tough place to cross. So it has like multiple signs of warning. Like normally you only have one. This has got 2 on either side. And again, removing the parking so that there's a landing there that doesn't interfere with the pedestrians crossing. So those 2 things, I am very hopeful. We've been working with the contractor. Should be done by the end of this year.
Hooray! Thank
We're
you,
gonna
Laura.
try and do them this year. Yeah.
So the county is not squawking about this, are they? I mean, do they still have misgivings about this crosswalk? But since we've got the money there,
I mean, we couldn't go out to bid with the county saying okay, but I don't know if all of you were on the Complete Streets Committee or not. I mean, the Complete Streets did counts here. We met with the county a bunch of times. I mean, it certainly wasn't the easiest discussion we've ever had, but yes, they are in approval of this, and we do have our work permits from the county to go ahead. But
Right.
the Complete Streets, I think, was one of the major leveraging points with the work that the volunteers were willing to do to show the county that we needed the crossing there.
Who maintains the landscaping? Is it the town or the county?
Yeah, so I know that there was multiple things that were bid in this project, and like pavers and the kiosk, we didn't have enough money for. I am not clear on the landscaping, but if the landscaping goes in, it would be the town because the town maintains the crosswalks on the county roads. The push buttons are ours. The striping, the county will typically upgrade if they need to, but we maintain the push buttons if they're malfunctioning, and we would maintain the landing.
It looks great, Laura. I'm really excited
Yeah.
about this. I know when I did the count there, I talked to several parents who said that their kids would walk to school if there was a crosswalk there, but they didn't feel like it was safe for their kids to cross there. So that's super exciting. I'm really glad to see this go in.
Yeah, I wish, because it's such a connection to the schools, that you could somehow make it an actual red light that would force the cars to stop. It's a blinky caution light, and some cars stop and some don't. But
If I were a parent, I'd still
way
go when I
better
kids.
than it was before, right?
Yeah. That does remind me, I was wondering, this type of crosswalk with the caution lights that are further away, we talked about that being also on River Road where the new construction is going in by Blatnick Park. Did that not happen down there where the curve is?
So they have a blinky caution light at Kelts. I don't know if it's operational yet. It's got to be very close though. I mean, because he's been working with the county on closing that out. But it's a push button, not a sensor.
Yeah, and Laura,
So there's a button at the crosswalk where you cross, but there's no like forward.
Oh, I don't think that one figures the
driver.
forward lights because it's not a sight issue. I think that one just has lights at the crosswalk.
So it is kind of hard to see when you're coming from Niskayuna and you're coming around that curve.
Yeah.
But so that wasn't in the discussion for them to put that in. I thought we talked about that, but I couldn't remember. I know I missed it myself. And then when I was coming back, I stopped at the crosswalk and someone was actually in the crosswalk crossing, and the car coming towards us blew right through it and didn't stop for them.
Which
And
is
we-
really illegal.
And like, I actually honked my horn
Good.
for the approaching car, and the person in the crosswalk just looked at me and was like, that's not the first time that's happened. So
Yeah.
I actually experienced the same. As a biker, I was crossing and I was about to like run across, and then another car just blew through. But I think it takes a while for people to get used to it. It's just people that aren't used to it that come through. And it would be helpful to have something another warning sign, but as you said.
yeah, I thought we talked about it, but then I couldn't remember what the conclusion was. I thought there was just going to be something on the curve.
I can double check the permits, but I don't remember that. I know with this one, with the St. Joe's one, it was critical because of the speed limit and the site distances. But I don't remember that for the Kelts Farm crossing. But I can look. I'll look on the plans and double check that.
Maybe I'm mixing them up.
and Laura, is there any way to get those Kelts Farm signs, I guess, retrofitted to be the fluorescent to match what's going to be at these other crosswalks? Because right now they're just the standard, I guess, traffic yellow.
So I didn't realize that was a different. I saw your email to make sure that these two crosswalks were the same, and the engineer said no problem to that.
Well, yeah, no, there's that. It was after the last meeting when Jim pointed out that this crosswalk had been put in, the signage and everything for the Kelts Farm. When you drive by there, they're just the standard yellow, traffic yellow signs. They're not the high vis fluorescent yellow green signs. And it's kind of mismatched around the town with, I guess older is typically the yellow, and newer is more the fluorescent yellow green, the high vis. So I guess just for consistency, it would be good for motorists to be familiar with when they see a fluorescent sign, they know it's a pedestrian crossing. If they can just be consistent throughout the town.
That makes complete sense to me. I think potentially, I mean, I can certainly ask about the Kelts Farm one, but that one was put in by the developer, and the TDE reviews all those specs. So it'd be unlikely that we'd be able to require that to be changed. And so the town would probably have to pay for it to be changed. It's probably not a huge heavy lift, but it might take a little while. But I'll look at the Kelts Farm crossing both for sort of the pre-warning signs and then the visibility. colors. But for sure, these two crosswalks will be the right colors. Then,
For
Then-
kids crossing here, though, I think if I were a parent, I mean, I wouldn't let my 1st to 5th grade cross there without being a parent standing there to make sure the cars have stopped, because there's a lot of busy traffic on River Road. People are late for work and stuff. And so, I mean, you may push the button and, you know, you've got the blinking light, but that doesn't stop motorists. I mean, they do it in front of the Niskayuna Co-op that I walk to all the time, that you've got a crosswalk, you can be standing in it and somebody will drive through. So you almost have to be sure that the cars have stopped and you've made eye contact with the drivers before you start across, because it's dangerous. So, Ben, you have a thought?
Yeah, I was wondering, you know, with this going in, if there's real motion from the community to send their kids to school that way, can the district put a crossing guard there in the mornings and the afternoon?
I mean, we can always have that conversation with them. I don't think we've discussed that too much, though.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking if it's something that is a real concern, I mean, or just put it out there.
Mm-hmm. I just noticed that this is way safer than people running across the road with no crosswalk. Way safer. And we're removing the cars. The other element that made this a very difficult thing to cross was the parking lot on the other side, right? Because you're crossing into parked cars. Sometimes they were moving, like there's a big ditch. Like a lot of the elements that made it a really tough crossing are being removed. But anywhere in town, like the Flower Hill crossing, the Aqueduct Road crossing, even though this is way safer, like people still have to realize that you get halfway in the crosswalk. It's completely illegal, but the other cars don't stop. I mean, yeah, I just, you know, because I live very close to the Aqueduct Road crossing and I see that happen all the time. And that crosswalk has been there for years. So you can't say that people don't know that it is there. It's just some people want to stop and some people don't. It's very frustrating because I would like to be able to say, once a crosswalk was in, like, hooray, like you live in Massachusetts now and everybody's going to stop. But that doesn't seem to be the case in New York.
Well, I definitely appreciate this crosswalk going in. I've been almost hit by cars many times on my bike right there and waiting.
I've heard a lot of near misses there because it's the sight lines and the dip and people are going really fast. So this should definitely help.
Also, just for a quick 30 seconds, it's a great training loop if we have a bike rodeo at Town Hall, because now you ride out of the parking lot at Town Hall, you go down Knott Street East, you go on Windsor, you'll use the new crosswalk at the Kelts property to get over onto the bike path. Then you'll ride along the bike path up the hill to GE, back down to St. Joseph's Drive. And then, you know, we'd obviously have some people at the Kelts crosswalk. We'd have some other bike safety people at St. Joseph's Drive to help people get across. Then people would cross at St. Joseph's, come back down on Orchard Park Drive and back to Town Hall. So we've got a good training loop that we can have adults go and have kids and other people. And we've got push button crosswalk in 2 locations to really help people understand how those work and some safety tips for doing it. So
yeah,
anyway.
I was just trying to pick up my Canal Way trail sign, but this, you know, the Orchard Park is the Canal Way on-street Canal Way trail that then connects into the Mohawkton Bike Hike Trail here. So you had these 2 trails that were right across the street from each other but never connected. So this will connect the Canal Way Trail and Mohawkton Bike Hike Trail as well. Okay, so that's that one. Hopefully those will go in just shortly. This is the sidewalk on Knott Street, which is shovel ready. So, you know, Safe Streets for All or whatever. We could rebid this project out. It is quite expensive. We now have the numbers, at least from 2022, of what it would take. But this is the sidewalk, at least connecting the Niskayuna side to the Schenectady side. The Schenectady side of sidewalk is pretty simple. The Niskayuna side needs curbing and, you know, retaining walls and all kinds of things, but it is ready to go. You can put this out to bid again and we will be able to get a contractor. We just weren't able to afford it this time. And
so this is on Knott Street from Baker down to Garner, and hopefully the city will do, once you get to the town of Niskayuna property line, down to Garner. So it'll basically, the sidewalk that's on Knott Street going from the co-op down. It will connect to the city, so people could walk to Ellis Hospital if they had to, or people in the city that want to walk to the co-op could do the same. And I'm assuming we get one contractor and they're going to do Niskayuna and the strip in the city that would go from the town line to Garner Avenue or to Lexington.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a better way to do it. The city of Schenectady has, consistently committed to doing their side if Niskayuna is able to pull their side together. Again, Niskayuna side is pretty complicated. The driveways here are at a pretty steep pitch, so when you add the sidewalk, it gets a little iffy with the cars and things, so it took a lot of engineering to be able to make this work.
Good news, because this has been a hazard for a while with people walking on Knott Street. You get to the hill at Baker Avenue, motorists can't see the pedestrians and the pedestrians can't see the motorists. And if you've got snow piled there, then you've got people walking in the road with the snow on either side. So getting this fixed will be an important safety step for walkers on Knott Street. Anyway.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, this is ready for a grant. The town may be able to afford it in a couple years, but I think, if a Build Back Better grant comes down or it works for the Safe Streets for All, this is something that you can submit with quotes. I mean, you couldn't get a better project ready to just submit. It is ready. We couldn't fund it with this particular bid process, but we know what it'll take now. And the same is true for Plum Street, although in the case of Plum Street, the town actually this budgeting cycle put in the money to do Plum Street. So originally we had $50,000 to do Plum Street. That is not enough. Just seems to be an amazingly expensive thing to put in sidewalks these days. Although this is also a little more complicated sidewalk than we thought because there's 2 catch basins that have to be fixed. But anyway, we believe based on the bids that came in this year that we got, that we've got enough money in the budget to do that next year. So I believe that this will probably just be a project that the town puts out next year. The one benefit to holding back on it is that we bid it as an asphalt side path, kind of a large shoulder, and it still came out too expensive. But the town, I think, has put aside enough money to actually do it as a curbed sidewalk. So that'll be better. And then
Laura, I just want to interject and say, these projects are going to save people's lives, and it's really wonderful. And thank you for your hard work to do it.
Tess was actually out there when I was talking to the property owner. I was talking to the property owner who is in favor of this and is fine and is willing to work with us on everything.
Hooray.
Yeah, he's good. So we just got to get the funding for this, but which I think we will have for next year. Basically, we had to double the funding. And if needed,
Okay.
that one is also shovel ready for those are those.
Okay, our spring Complete Streets demonstration project, we still have got to give some thought to whether we want to do the bike lanes on Lexington Parkway, and we have to get out and speak to homeowners, and I think that's something that we've decided we'll try to do in the spring. And then a roundabout, that's something we need to talk about too, to see if we want. I think we were maybe Regent and Baker. I think that was the intersection we were looking at, but we probably need to look at some examples of those and see if that's still something we want to do as a traffic calming measure. Any further discussion on those? I still want to, try to get 2 more items in before we go here quickly. So anything else, any other input from board members on the demonstration
Yeah,
projects?
just for the demonstration, we should totally include your idea for that loop to incorporate the new crosswalks.
Okay, that training loop only works once the crosswalk is
Right.
in at St. Joseph.
But
But
it said that I thought Laura just said they'd be done by the end of the year.
yeah, if they are, then spring, that would be a terrific bike rodeo thing right there to do a bike safety thing and to really use both of those. We could have some bike safety people at Kelts Farm and at St. Joseph's and along the way, and really would be a tremendous, and it's something we could do every year, really a training thing. So Andrew, you got your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess just brief if we want to move on. Ben and I did meet at the intersection for Baker and Regent got some measurements of it, sketched out a concept for the roundabout. I guess one thing we were talking about for doing it in the spring would be possibly getting it set up, running it for a couple weeks ahead of NISCA Day. And if we have a booth at NISCA Day, you could have, feedback, follow-up, how it went, things like that. Administratively, I guess we can follow up with Laura after, but I think it'd be good to have a discussion with someone at the highway department for what would be used if they have, to set up a temporary traffic circle. And then do we need any interaction with the town board to have approval to do this, or do we have free reign to just go ahead, or what's the next step there?
They've got to bless it, because if
Right.
they get any feedback, we want them to know, here's what we're trying. Here's the benefits of doing this. It's only going to be 2 weeks. We're going to get input. So they know the scoop and can answer questions. And they definitely have to be on board, before we go out and do it. So it's a
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, so for the sake of that item, probably getting something in front of them sooner than later is
Yeah.
probably good.
Yeah. We need some examples. And then if there's research on how these roundabouts are a traffic calming device, how they've worked in Seattle or other places, that would be good to have that too. And really to make the pitch, maybe at highway committee or even an agenda session for the town board to say, here's a traffic calming device. It's been used in other communities. The scientific research says it's successful. We would like to select an intersection to give it a try in Niskuna and make sure they're on board with it. And we can do that over the winter.
Yep, well, I can certainly put that together.
Okay. Does that
They've
sound
been
good to you, Ben? Okay.
They've been kind of pre-prepped about it. We've discussed it a couple of times with them, so I think they're on board. But all those materials, when we're ready, we should submit a whole thing to them and get like the formal approval. And yeah, the advantage to some of that education is not only can we educate them, but maybe we could put it in an email blast, and educate people with all that package that we would give to them too, provided that they said okay, which I do think they will do. But yeah, we do have to get that final thing from them.
Okay. Number 4 on discussion items, we have the Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A preparation for 2023. We don't want to get down to 2 weeks before the deadline in September of 2023. We want to have some ideas. The town board is open. They've indicated that their budget hearings, that they're going to put some money in the budget to hire an engineering firm to put together a grant application. The SS4A, the minimum grant is $5 million. Now that doesn't mean there aren't other smaller ones that are safe routes to schools and other CHIPS things that, if we have a grant application that we could do. But we want to get some ideas together on, if we're going to apply for SS4A, it's $5 million. Then let's look at some projects that we think are important, say Birchwood Lane or Cornelius or Rosendale Road or whatever they are, that we look at the projects we talked about. What are some priorities? What would we say to defend each one of these? We look at some costs, kinds of things. And that would be input that, well, certainly we would go to the town board, and then the town board would ask M&J Engineering or Barton LaJudas or any engineering firm that does this kind of stuff to take a look at the requirements of the SS4A and to prepare a grant application, and then, get the town board to look at that. We also, I think, as a committee, need to get the safety plan that the Capital District Transportation Committee has put together and review that to make sure that what we're trying to do meets the objectives of the Safe Streets and Roads for All in terms of what the feds want to accomplish it. That certainly we don't have sidewalks and bike paths to a lot of our schools. And so that's a step. They aren't there now, so we're planning on doing them. I don't know that we necessarily have to, make the case. But, there have been some instances. There was one in Rotterdam even just a couple of weeks ago of a student that got hit walking to school. And we have, I know it's been 30 years, but one that was hit on Cornelius Avenue getting to school. And so basically we just want to do our homework to identify, if we're applying for a $5 million grant, The town board would have to come up with a mill. It doesn't mean that Assemblyman Steck or someone might not help us find the matching money for one mill, but we want to use this time to identify what we think are most important, what we want to do, and to start working on that. So I'm going to encourage people to do that. And then anybody else, does that make sense to people on the committee? I I have sent around the Excel spreadsheet, so I think we need to, kind of get some preliminary cost figures on the stuff that were on our spreadsheet of projects that are important, and then to kind of rank those. If the town board said, okay, well, one, we'd have to run it by the town board to make sure they're in agreement with the projects that we want to apply for money for, but we want to share that with them and get them to say yes, feed that into the engineering firm that's going to prepare the grant so that when the grant gets to them, they're comfortable with the items that are in there and what we want to do. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Makes sense.
The other thing to remember with that grant is that it's tied into that CDTC study, which is why we're able to do the implementation side. So it would be worth it to get familiar with the CDTC study and see what those recommendations are,
Yep.
and see if there's things within the town that can tie in, because that's obviously going to make the most competitive grant application.
And I think that was part of the email that they sent to me. If not, I'll get back to the ladies and say, could you send us the plan? And then we'd have to take a look at it. Finally, Paulina mentioned, and a couple other people have mentioned the little curb that at Crescent Road, that, if we have a different parking situation, are there any other things that we need to recommend as part of that project? Because I know Metroplex is planning on doing some paving, then pave the alley and maybe pave part of the area that's next to the Broken Inn. And there is that stub of curb that kind of sticks out by by Clifton Park and Nut Street. And do we have any further thoughts that we want to share on that project? And can we look at a picture, Laura, or are we running out of time? We got 3 minutes, I guess. We're either 3 minutes ahead of schedule if we quit at 4, or we're 27 minutes behind schedule if we quit at 3:30. So it all depends.
I'm not actually sure if the aerial even help. Maybe I could pull up a different picture actually, but I don't think in any of the proposals there's any. Yeah, this is the old aerial, but there's any a proposal to remove that curb. I think that curb is really important because it limits where the cars can enter and exit onto Knott Road from Clifton Park. So if anything, I think anything that's done on the Clifton Park Crescent side needs to enhance that curb and make sure that it stays. So I don't think anybody's talking about removing that curb. The whole point is that it necks down the intersection on Clifton Park into Knott.
Okay.
That project is currently on hold. It may go forward again here in a little bit, but the planning board had to put it on hold until the applicant can kind of work things out with the landlord. So we'll probably have more chances of giving input, but right now.
So in other words, the new sidewalk is going in that Metroplex, I think, is paying for.
Along the side of the building. And the paving's happening. Yeah.
And the paving's happening. So I was just wondering, if the paving goes in, does the parking configuration change so cars are further out on Clifton Park Road, that they now create that kind of buffer from the Broken Inn, a pedestrian seating area, and then cars are the buffer to the roadway? I just wondered, is that what the new configuration is going to look like there?
Well, they haven't agreed to stripe it yet because the configuration is currently up in the air. Okay. It will have to get solved, but it slowing down. Something will have to happen there, right? Something. It hasn't been decided yet, and how the application proceeds is still being reviewed by the legal department.
Well, at least two good pieces of news is the sidewalk is going in on the west side of the Co-op block building. Mm-hmm. It's either 8 or 9 feet sidewalk, and Metroplex has agreed to pave the alley way that goes behind the Co-op and the other businesses. And I think just the parking lots in the back, so the businesses will be able to use that asphalt area. And then Gail King has also done some new paving also on her parking area that comes off the alley there. And so it gets easier to think about how it would look like, and the paving will be nice. And
It
so
will be nice.
I also think that, Metroplex has not lost interest in this, that if they're going to do additional work to do this paving, that says that we made an investment here. And so we're going to do other, pieces of investment to make sure this plaza looks nice. And these are a couple things that they're already starting to do, which is.
Oh yeah, Metroplex is also looking to work with the town to add some, benches and bike racks and stuff, all on its own. So that's super cool. And they're also working with a couple property owners more on the planning side to do sign or facade upgrades, which is what we hoped would happen with the improvement of the sidewalk. So it does seem to be going very well over there. Stay tuned.
Okay, I will send the email I got from Kim Tully with the school stuff to everybody on the committee, and take a look at each school campus. If you got some other thoughts on what could be done, do that. And then safe streets and roads for all. I think I've sent the Excel spreadsheet to everybody, but I can send it again. And if I can get the traffic safety plan from CDTC, I'll send that to everybody too, so we can take a look at that. And we'll start focusing on, if the wish list is we're applying for a grant for $5 million, what are we going to do? That we need to, look at streets that, paving and whatever we want to do that's safe routes, including crosswalks. What would we want to put in that grant so that the town board says we're ready to go, that they've got the streets, they've got the ideas, we've got the safety study in place. Our grant application matches what's in the safety study, and let's go hire an engineering firm, put it together and do it. And, the encouraging thing is our neighbors in Glenville have been very aggressive about getting safe routes to school money, getting grants from state legislators, and the money is out there. And I think our current town board realizes that's a real resource for us. And, it's state and federal money. We pay our state and federal taxes. We should get a piece of that. And then so we really just have to do a good job of applying. And I think the town board's also going to maybe hire someone part-time to be a grant writer. And they also understand that Laura's busy as heck. So is the water sewer superintendent. So is the highway superintendent. So a lot of people that they are going to get professional help to prepare these grants. And these guys do grants for a living. So those are all good things. And so I'm encouraged.
I had
Anyway.
two questions.
Sure, go ahead, Paulina.
Did we get a follow-up from our letter requesting 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Balltown Road in front of Craig School? Did we get a response to our letter?
I don't know if the letter was ever sent.
I don't know if it was sent either, because I think there was a question about the speed limit that we had written into the letter. But I had to reach out to DOT recently about the timing of the lights on Balltown and Knott and Balltown and River, and I made a new contact that I think might be very helpful. So when you guys were mentioning that, I was thinking maybe it would be worth reaching out to them and being like, can we do just an in-person meeting and discuss this? Might be even more useful than sending the letter to. There's a Schenectady DOT office, which I did not realize. So I would like to reach out to them again. They seem very responsive and helpful.
Okay. And then in our proposal to the school, did we include numbers of bike racks for each school? And was that addressed in Kim Tully's response?
I'll have to look at it. The print is so fine, it's hard to see. And I haven't actually had a chance to read it carefully myself, but I don't recall seeing anything about bike racks in there. And really, every school campus should have those. If we want people to bike and walk to school, they got to do the bike racks. So, but
yeah, especially if we're creating new pathways to get people to walk and bike, and the bike racks they have now are not sufficient.
Right.
So
we're not creating new pathways. We're just getting asphalt on the cow paths that are already there and in use. But it is a good point.
Yeah. For encouraging more people to walk and bike to school, and the bike racks they have are insufficient already. we're going to need to provide more. So
Yes.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was you or Jim or Elise who sent a picture of the bike racks at VA, maybe, and they were just overwhelmed with bikes. I
I
remember
have
that.
one from Hillside, and I have one at the high school. And
Yeah,
it's crazy.
they're
To tell you the
definitely-
truth, I think somebody could go to the school board and just take those pictures and say, there are 2 school out of 8 campuses that have got a bike rack and they're way overloaded. So you got the 80 million bucks. How about some bike racks for the schools? I mean,
I thought about doing that because
Yeah.
I have my daughter goes, Mom, it's really creepy that you have pictures of these kids, and I'm like, it's not the kids, it's the bike racks.
yes, we got to be
I
bold.
thought about
Gotta be
doing
bold.
that and sending them in, so I'll do that. I'll finish
Thank
it
you.
up.
Did you have a second question, Paulina? Or
Those are my 2, the
Okay, good.
follow-up letter and the bike racks.
okay.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
I want to try to end at 4. So unless anybody's got a question, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and remind people we have no meeting in November. December 9, Friday, December 9 is our next meeting. And again, if you have something that you want to suggest as an agenda item, send it to me or send it to Laura, and we'll get it on. So thanks for the good discussion today, and thanks for everyone meeting it. So move to adjourn. Looking for a second. Got one from Paulina Manzo. So see you all next time, and have a good Halloween and a
Thanks, Bill. Bye-bye.
Thanksgiving. Okay. Bye-bye.